Australia. Forcibly hit the shelves by massive powerhouse colonisation studio Britain, Australia reluctantly released in 1788 to very critical comments such as, "Please stop this," and "Why are you doing this?" and "This is our land, like, fuck off, dude." And when is the smallpox bug going to be patched? Devs began bare bones with barely anything to the game besides resource gathering and a now forbidden and disgraceful act that I cannot say on YouTube. Most players migrated from another smash hit, Prison Simulator 1770 by other studios. Early days consisted of looting, shelter finding, and drinking the good old-fashioned beer. And congratulations to you on your recent arrival. You'll be pleased to know that Australia has made great strides in development, with more patches being added almost daily. You'll have plenty to do in this great Outback adventure, but first, before we get into that, we'll need to sort out your player class. Australia has since added many classes to the game. With the advent of more diverse portfolio and distancing itself from the original creators, dedicated players have taken to making their own mods and add-ons to widen the range of an already diverse portfolio. There are so many class types to choose from, and it can also be a bit too overwhelming for new players, so I've taken the liberty of narrowing down your options into some easier classes. Bogans are a rare breed and have a rich and deep lore. The Bogan class has many advantages that can help in a pinch against its counterparts. The Bogan is a brute type player. Hardened by the sun and holding Commodore fumes, their buff comes from Bundaberg rum and Winfield blue cigarettes. Your local pub will offer a HP boost, and if you're feeling advantageous, you can try your hand in the Bricky's laptop, otherwise known as the Pokies or poker machines for you Americans for some fucking weird reason. Your weaknesses include hard day's work, as doing too much of this activity will actually nerf your job seeker payments and Coles vouchers. Shelter is often provided to these players. Gathering resources will include how many license plates you can fit on your wall in your man cave. This is for my lazy entitled player who would much rather have the game played for him. This class is a cope and is a great way to dip your feet into the game without ever really rolling up your sleeve. The middle class offers many buffs straight out the gate from day one. Food and XP are often provided for at least the first 25 years, and you're guaranteed to join a strong guild as long as you don't go off the rails. You'll have a well-handled life with very little challenge. Most boss levels or run-ins with mods will consist of the ultimate ability of Call My Dad or Do You Know Who I Am? Both extremely powerful abilities. Players can gather money from mundane quests, usually taking part in daily around 8 to 10 hours, only to unleash themselves onto the local streets on the weekend, taking part in the rituals of drinking too much alcohol and consumerism and PvP fights. This class is a sub-branch of the middle class, but with more of self-made obstacles. Players in this category will face the same obstacles as the middle class, but will choose to branch out after the first 18 levels, placing themselves into lower-level, progressive villages with players of similar class-type stats. Art students gather HP and XP from little fat lamb bottles and poorly rolled joints, with main source of XP gathered by drum circles and protests. This is an extremely passive class, and when shit does inevitably hit the fan, players can call upon the said moderators that they hate to get them out of hot water. Customization is vast in this class, with many a parachute pant and dreadlock combo to choose from. The ESHAY type again stems from the middle class and Bogan classes. ESHAYs choose a life of little moderation, breaking free of the societal norms and roving the streets for low-level players to challenge and loot the bare essentials. Much like Bogans, the ESHAY's power source is in its armor, consisting of a Nike tracksuit and a small storage satchel and speed buff from their Nike TNs. ESHAYs have a deep and rich lore. Bowing to their god Cursor, they are sold to a life of prison fights and very little attention span in early tutorials. HP is gained from mango vapes and herbs and other various crystals. It is important to note that middle class have the ability to pose as ESHAYs to blend into larger crowds. Early level players might be fooled, but don't worry. With plenty of experience, you'll be able to establish the difference and know who to challenge and who not to challenge. This class is extremely niche, but it's a class I unfortunately have to interact with the most in this game. The Gold Coaster is a fighter type class, with many of its abilities stemming from its cosmetics and appearance attributes. Players in this category will spend most of their time half naked in the sun gathering XP. Health and other skills can be learned in the form of gym memberships or a BBL clinic. Gold Coasters have a skill tree attached that can be expanded in the form of how many basic white boy tattoos they can gather on their bodies. Players in this category harden PvP fighters. With intelligence nerf, they spend most of their hours maxing out their strength and charisma levels to make them a worthy adversary. The original founders of Australia before the powerhouse Britain came through and tore all their hard work to shreds. These players have a deep-rooted connection to the game, building a rich and beautiful backstory that was later shelved and forgotten by most players. They unfortunately have seen way too much heartbreak from developers and have been fucked over, and that's putting it extremely lightly, one too many times. These players have maxed out all of their survivability rate due to the deep connection to the game's original building blocks. Befriending these players is beneficial and detrimental to understanding the game's forefathers. HP and XP can be gathered by almost any natural method, and XP for these players is pretty much already maxed out. Remember, this was their game first, and it always will be. Easily the worst class to choose from in the game is the moderator route. If you're struggling with integrating with the rest of the game, why not go above their heads and join the prestigious moderator group? However, you'll need to already have clocked at least 18 levels in the middle class to be even considered for this role. Being a moderator comes with many exploitative powers, like banning players, mainly the founders, with little to no explanation. You have a built-in targeting system that helps with this. Think of it like a Discord moderator, but with a gun and a taser. Some players will see you as a threat and thus treat you as a threat, but who cares? You've got a long and convoluted list of outdated rules to drop on them for days. XP and HP in this class can be gained by unnecessary fines and timeouts given to players, and these players can spend their time off in the free DLC Barley Adventures to further gain unnecessary XP. Now that I've shown you some of the very few characters to choose from, I want to give you a very quick rundown on some of the thousands of potential mobs and creatures that you'll run into during this game. You have thousands of variations of spiders and other different levels of XP, but also remember, as they increase in size, the less dangerous they get. Huntsman spiders are often friendly mobs, but in exchange for shelter, they'll allegedly provide bounty hunting services for other small creatures. But take a look at this fucking thing and tell me you want to let that watch you shower. Not on my watch, baby. Oh, look at the two I killed the other day. Yeah. Snakes, again, are a fairly passive yet intrusive creature. Here's my friendly tip for identifying high-level mobs. The more common sounding the name, the more likely it is to kill you. Like this, the eastern brown snake. Why developers didn't decide to call it Bargol the Destroyer and instead something very passive sounding should give you an insight into the thought process of early developers. Kangaroos. Not available to ride, despite many outsider opinions and theories. Attempting anything other than hand feeding these in designated feeding zones will result in head-to-head, very one-sided PvP match. Unless you are this player here that apparently has experience in just beating the shit out of kangaroos. Kangaroos see you as a threat, but have still not been coded by developers to avoid your car, and those motherfuckers will just run at it for no reason. So that's something to look out for. Koalas are another extremely passive mob, spending almost all of their time in eucalyptus trees and sleeping. You'll rarely get a chance to see one of these up close and personal unless, again, you go to a designated feeding zone. A good thing to remember if you see a mob like this traveling on the floor near roads, stop and assist them, as they are Australia's representation of a sloth and almost always will be clocked by a truck driving NPC. Also remember, koalas have a built-in mechanism defense of chlamydia, so that's just something to look out for, okay? It's gross. I don't know why the devs did that. Stingrays took one of the most beloved and fabled players of this game, Steve Irwin. They're not actually that bad of a creature, but personally, if you see one of these out in the water, drop a fucking elbow on them, please. Look, there are over 570,000 mobs and creatures in this game, and you'll most likely never run into all of them, unless you're one of those weird traveling players who moves from area to area in a basic white boy van called #vanlife or some shit like that. I don't know. You'll find your own way around them in your own creative ways, and that's all the help I'll offer for you in that situation. Some basic HP items that can be found scattered around the map can give you a quick boost in HP and other stats, and some of these are as follows. Vegemite gives the player a buff in strength and a nerf in intelligence, because any motherfucker that likes this shit must be because that is a truly foul creation. Wheat Bix gives player a heavy strength and speed boost, and with the more consumed, the higher the buff and increase. However, overconsumption of this will bog you down in the long run, and the effects will wear off quicker. Meat pies offer to little to no increase in any field. They just taste really good, and they're easy to access by any player, so have fun with that. Beer replenishes players' thirst stat and heavily boosts the charm and charisma, but players drinking too much of this will find themselves in many PvP fights and will end up having weekend timeouts by moderators because you can't handle that shit. Players can cook almost everything that they find throughout gameplay on one of the many public use barbecues provided by developers. Just be cautious of the ever-fabled haunted saucy.
We have a cursed barbecue, cunt. It's evenly cooking the fucking saucy by itself. Who needs to cook saucies when fucking Earth does it for you, cunt?
Look, this orientation could go on for hours. I suggest you do some light reading into the shady background of the developers, because it might be not for everyone, before you decide to dive headfirst into this burning hot grind fest. Hopefully with the information I've provided, I've either scared you off completely or I've sold you entirely. This is again is extremely vague and minimal orientation, as there's thousands of classes to choose from, and even more HP and XP boosts to choose from. It's just limitless. Just have a fucking crack at it, dude. Honestly, as we say here in Australia, have a fucking crack. You only get one life in this game before being permabanned, so choose wisely. Good luck out there, champ. Have a crack and you'll be right. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please feel free to share with any potential players or even some of your more experienced players that just need a refresher on the essentials. This has been Cavemanbrain, your fair dinkum instructor on the basics of the game Australia. I'll see you in the lobby. Thank you for watching.